Here are the 100 questions and answers about growing tomatoes and other relevant questions. Starting with number 1. When is the best time to plant tomatoes? Plant tomatoes after all danger of frost has passed and soil temperatures reach at least 60 degrees Fahrenheit or 16 degrees Celsius. 2. Can I start tomatoes from seeds indoors? Absolutely. Start seeds indoors 6 to 8 weeks before your last frost date for a head start on the growing season. 3. What's the difference between determinate and indeterminate tomatoes? Determinate varieties grow to a certain height, produce all their fruit at once, and then decline. Indeterminate varieties continue growing and producing fruit throughout the season until killed by frost. 4. How deep should I plant tomato seedlings? Unlike most plants, tomatoes should be planted deeply. Bury them up to their first set of true leaves because they'll develop roots along the buried stem. 5. How far apart should tomato plants be spaced? Space determinate varieties 2 to 3 feet apart and indeterminate varieties 3 to 4 feet apart, with rows 4 to 5 feet apart. 6. What type of soil do tomatoes prefer? Tomatoes thrive in well-draining, loamy soil rich in organic matter with a pH between 6.0 and 6.8. 7. How much sunlight do tomatoes need? Tomatoes require at least 6 to 8 hours of direct sunlight daily for optimal growth and fruit production. 8. Can tomatoes grow in containers? Yes. Choose determinate varieties or compact cultivars specifically developed for containers and use at least a 5-gallon pot per plant. 9. Should I add anything to the planting hole? Many gardeners add compost bone meal crushed eggshells or a tablespoon of Epsom salts to provide essential nutrients. 10. Can I grow tomatoes in the same spot year after year? It's best to rotate your tomato planting locations every 3 to 4 years to prevent soil-borne diseases and nutrient depletion. 11. How often should I water tomato plants? Water deeply and consistently, typically providing 1 to 2 inches of water, weekly adjusted for rainfall and temperature. 12. Is it better to water in the morning or evening? Morning is preferable because foliage can dry during the day, reducing disease risk. 13. Can I use a sprinkler to water tomatoes? Although convenient overhead watering increases disease risk, drip irrigation or soaker hoses are much better options. 14. How can I tell if I'm overwatering my tomatoes? Yellowing leaves, especially on the lower part of the plant wilting, despite wet soil and cracked fruit, can indicate overwatering. 15. What is tomato blossom end rot, and is it related to watering? Yes, this common disorder appears as dark sunken spots on the bottom of fruits and is caused by calcium deficiency often related to inconsistent watering. 16. What nutrients do tomatoes need most? Tomatoes are heavy feeders requiring nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, calcium, and magnesium among other micronutrients. 17. When should I fertilize my tomato plants? Apply a balanced fertilizer at planting time, then switch to a lower nitrogen, higher phosphorus formula once flowering begins. 18. Can I use coffee grounds as fertilizer for tomatoes? Yes, coffee grounds add nitrogen and organic matter, but should be composted first or used sparingly to avoid making soil too acidic. 19. Are organic fertilizers better than synthetic ones for tomatoes? Organic fertilizers release nutrients slowly and improve soil structure, while synthetic options provide immediate nutrition. Both can be effective when used properly. 20. How can I tell if my tomato plants are getting enough nutrients? Healthy tomato plants have deep green leaves, sturdy stems, and produce flowers and fruit abundantly. Yellow leaves often indicate nutrient deficiencies. 21st. Do all tomato plants need staking? While determinate varieties can sometimes manage without support, all tomatoes benefit from staking or caging to keep fruit off the ground. 22. What's the difference between staking, caging, and trellising? Staking uses a single stake and ties caging surrounds the plant with a supportive structure, and trellising trains vines along a vertical or horizontal framework. 23rd. When should I install supports for my tomato plants? Install supports at planting time to avoid damaging roots later. 24. How tall should tomato cages or stakes be? Determinate varieties need supports 3 to 4 feet tall, while indeterminate varieties may require 5 to 8 foot supports. 25. What materials make good tomato supports? Common options include wooden stakes, metal cages, cattle panels, bamboo poles, and specialized tomato towers. 26. Should I prune my tomato plants? Indeterminate varieties benefit from pruning suckers, side shoots, to improve air circulation and direct energy to fruit production, while determinate varieties need minimal pruning. 27. What are tomato suckers, and how do I identify them? Suckers are secondary stems that grow in the crotch between the main stem and a branch. They'll eventually produce flowers and fruit if left unpruned. 28. Will pruning leaves help my tomatoes ripen faster? Removing some lower leaves can improve air circulation and reduce disease, but excessive leaf removal deprives the plant of photosynthesis capacity. 29. Should I remove the first flowers from my tomato plants? Some gardeners remove the first flowers to encourage stronger root and foliage development before fruit production begins. 30. What is topping, and when should I do it? Topping involves removing the growing tip of indeterminate varieties 4 to 6 weeks before the first expected frost to encourage the plant to ripen existing fruit, rather than producing new growth. 31. Why are my tomato leaves turning yellow? Yellow leaves can indicate various issues, including nutrient deficiencies, overwatering disease, or natural aging of lower leaves. 32. What causes tomato leaves to curl? Leaf curl may result from viral disease herbicide damage, environmental stress, or certain pest infestations. 33. Why are my tomato plants growing tall but not producing fruit? Excessive nitrogen, insufficient phosphorus, extreme temperatures, or lack of pollination can cause this issue. 34. What are those white or gray spots on my tomato leaves? These spots typically indicate powdery mildew, a fungal disease that thrives in humid conditions with poor air circulation. 35. Why do my tomatoes have black spots on the bottom? This is likely blossom end rot caused by calcium deficiency, often related to inconsistent watering. 36. What are the most common tomato pests? Tomato hornworms, aphids, whiteflies, spider mites, and stink bugs frequently target tomato plants. 37. How can I identify tomato hornworms? These large, bright green caterpillars blend remarkably well with tomato foliage, but can be spotted by their distinctive white diagonal stripes and horn-like projection. 38. What's an organic way to control aphids on tomatoes? A strong spray of water insecticidal soap, or introducing beneficial insects like ladybugs, can effectively manage aphid populations. 39th. Do companion plants help deter tomato pests? Yes, plants like basil marigolds, nasturtiums, and borage can repel certain pests or attract beneficial insects that prey on tomato pests. 40. What's the best approach to managing pests in a home garden? Integrated Pest Management, IPM, combines prevention, monitoring, biological controls, and targeted treatments to manage pests while minimizing environmental impact. 41. What are the most common tomato diseases? Early blight, late blight, septoria, leaf spot, bacterial spot, and various viral diseases frequently affect tomatoes. 42. How can I prevent tomato diseases? Practice crop rotation, provide adequate spacing water at the base, rather than on foliage, promptly remove diseased plant material, and select disease-resistant varieties. 44. Can diseased tomato plants be saved? Some bacterial and fungal diseases can be managed with appropriate treatments if caught early, but viral diseases are incurable, and affected plants should be removed. 45. Should I put diseased tomato plants in my compost? No, dispose of seriously diseased plants to prevent spreading pathogens to future crops. 46. Do tomatoes need bees for pollination? Tomatoes are self-pollinating, but the pollen must be transferred from the stamen to the pistil, usually by wind vibration or insects. 47. Why are my tomato plants flowering but not producing fruit? Extreme temperatures, especially nights below 55 degrees Fahrenheit, 13 degrees Celsius, or above 75 degrees Fahrenheit, 24 degrees Celsius, can prevent proper pollination and fruit set. 48. What is blossom drop and why does it happen? Blossom drop occurs when flowers fall off without setting fruit, typically due to temperature extremes, drought stress, or excessive nitrogen. 49th. Can I hand-pollinate tomatoes? Yes, gently shake the plants or tap flower clusters with your finger to release pollen, or use a small paintbrush to transfer pollen between flowers. 50. Do some tomato varieties set fruit better in hot weather? Yes, heat-tolerant varieties like Solar Fire, Florida 91, and Heatmaster can set fruit even when temperatures are consistently high. 51. When should I harvest my tomatoes? Harvest when fruits have reached full size and begun to develop their mature color, typically from breaker stage, first blush of color, to fully ripe. 52nd. Is it better to pick tomatoes before they're fully ripe? Picking at the breaker stage and allowing them to ripen indoors can protect fruits from pests cracking and sun scald while still developing good flavor. 53. What's the best way to pick tomatoes? Gently twist the fruit while pulling or use scissors to cut the stem just above the fruit to avoid damaging the plant. 54. How can I ripen green tomatoes at the end of the season? Place them in a single layer in a box or paper bag with an apple or banana, which releases ethylene gas to promote ripening. 55. How long can tomatoes stay on the vine? Fully ripe tomatoes can remain on the vine for several days, but should be harvested before they begin to soften excessively or split. 56. What's the difference between heirloom and hybrid tomatoes? Heirloom varieties are open-pollinated cultivars that have been passed down for generations, while hybrids are crosses between two different parent plants for specific traits. 57. Which tomato varieties are best for containers? Compact varieties like Patio Princess, Tiny Tim, Bush Early Girl, and Tumbling Tom are excellent container choices. 58. What are the best tomato varieties for hot climates? Heat-tolerant varieties include Solar Fire, Arkansas Traveler, Heatmaster, Phoenix, and Florida 91. 59th. Which tomatoes are most disease-resistant? Look for varieties with multiple disease resistance codes, VFNT, like Big Beef, Celebrity, and Better Boy. 60. What are the best-tasting tomato varieties? Taste is subjective, but varieties consistently rated for exceptional flavor include Brandywine, Cherokee Purple, Sun Gold, and Black Crim. 61. How can I get an earlier start with my tomatoes? Use techniques like starting seeds indoors, warming soil with black plastic using wallow water protectors, or planting in cold frames. 62. What are the best tomato varieties for short growing seasons? Early maturing varieties include Early Girl, New Girl, Stupus, Subarctic Plenty, and Manitoba. 63. How can I extend my tomato harvest into fall? Cover plants during early frosts, harvest green tomatoes before killing frosts, and consider using season extension techniques like row covers or cold frames. 64. What is a cold frame, and how does it help tomatoes? A cold frame is a transparent topped enclosure that protects plants from cold while allowing sunlight in effectively creating a mini greenhouse. 65. Can tomatoes be grown year-round indoors? With sufficient light, usually requiring grow lights, warmth and proper care, determinate or dwarf varieties can produce modest yields indoors. 66. Can I save seeds from my tomato plants? Yes, you can save seeds from open-pollinated and heirloom varieties, but hybrid varieties won't produce plants identical to the parent. 67. What's the best method for saving tomato seeds? Scoop seeds with their gel into a container Add water and let ferment for 2 to 3 days, then rinse thoroughly and dry completely before storing. 68. How long will saved tomato seeds remain viable? Properly stored tomato seeds can remain viable for 4 to 10 years, though germination rates may decrease over time. 69. Do I need to worry about cross-pollination when saving tomato seeds? Tomatoes typically self-pollinate before flowers fully open, so cross-pollination is relatively uncommon, but possible especially with certain open-flower varieties. 70. Should I avoid saving seeds from diseased plants? Absolutely. Some diseases can be transmitted through seeds, so always select seeds from your healthiest, most productive plants. 71. What is the trench planting method for tomatoes? Instead of planting vertically, dig a horizontal trench and lay the tomato plant sideways, burying most of the stem with the top portion curved upward. 72. Can I grow tomatoes upside down? Yes, growing tomatoes in hanging containers with the plant emerging from the bottom can save space and reduce some pest and disease issues. 73. What is the Florida weave method for supporting tomatoes? This technique uses stakes and horizontal strings woven between plants to support an entire row of tomatoes. 74. What is deep water culture, hydroponic growing for tomatoes? This soilless method suspends plant roots in nutrient-rich oxygenated water for rapid growth and high yields. 75. Can tomatoes be successfully grafted? Yes, grafting a desirable tomato variety onto disease-resistant rootstock can produce vigorous plants with improved disease resistance. 76. What is sub-irrigation and how does it benefit tomatoes? Sub-irrigation delivers water from below the root zone, encouraging deeper root development and reducing foliar diseases. 77. How can I use mulch effectively with tomatoes? Apply 2 to 4 inches of organic mulch after soil has warmed to maintain moisture, suppress weeds, prevent soil-borne disease splash, and moderate soil temperature. 78. What is foliar feeding, and is it beneficial for tomatoes? Foliar feeding, applying liquid fertilizer directly to leaves, can provide quick nutrient access, especially for micronutrients, but shouldn't replace soil fertilization. 79. How do I prune tomatoes for maximum yield? Remove suckers below the first flower cluster, maintain 1 to 3 main stems depending on your support system, and remove lower leaves as the plant grows. 80. What is succession planting for tomatoes? Start additional tomato plants 2 to 4 weeks after your initial planting to extend your harvest season and replace early season varieties as they decline. 81. What's the best way to store fresh tomatoes? Store ripe tomatoes at room temperature away from direct sunlight, stem side down, and never refrigerate unless they're about to spoil. 82. How long will fresh tomatoes last? Properly stored ripe tomatoes will last 5 to 7 days at room temperature, while partially ripe tomatoes can last 1 to 2 weeks as they continue ripening. 83. What are the best tomato varieties for canning? Roma San Marzano Amish paste and other paste varieties have meaty flesh, fewer seeds, and less juice, making them ideal for canning. 84. Which tomato preservation method retains the most nutrients? Freezing whole or in pieces retains more nutrients than other preservation methods, but affects texture, making thawed tomatoes best for cooked dishes. 85. Can cherry tomatoes be preserved effectively? Yes, cherry tomatoes can be frozen whole, dehydrated into tomato raisins, or preserved in olive oil with herbs. 86. Why are my tomatoes cracking? Cracking occurs when rapid water uptake causes the fruit to expand faster than the skin can grow, typically after rain following a dry period. 87. What causes cat facing on tomatoes? Cat facing, misshapen fruit with scarred skin and irregular bottom surfaces, results from incomplete pollination, often due to cold temperatures during flowering. 88. Why are my tomatoes tasteless? Insufficient sunlight, overwatering, poor variety selection, harvesting underripe, or storing in refrigeration can all contribute to bland flavor. 89. What causes tough tomato skin? Excessive heat, inconsistent watering, high calcium levels, and certain varieties naturally develop thicker skins. 90. Why are there white areas inside my tomatoes? Internal white tissue can result from heat stress, potassium deficiency, or excessive sun exposure. 91. How should tomato care differ in hot, humid climates? In hot, humid regions, choose heat-tolerant and disease-resistant varieties, provide afternoon shade, maximize air circulation, and consider raised beds for better drainage. 92. What adaptations are needed for growing tomatoes in arid climates? Use drought-tolerant varieties, employ deep mulching, consider shade cloth during intense heat, monitor irrigation carefully, and protect from drying winds. 93. How can northern gardeners succeed with tomatoes? Choose short-season varieties, use season extension techniques, maximize sun exposure, and consider container growing for mobility. 94. Are some tomato varieties better suited for coastal conditions? Salt-tolerant varieties with resistance to leaf mold and late blight generally perform better in coastal environments. 95. What considerations are important for high-altitude tomato growing? Use short-season varieties, provide wind protection, consider cold frames or other season extenders, and be prepared for significant day-night temperature swings. 96. Is the tomato a fruit or vegetable? Botanically, tomatoes are fruits, specifically berries, but they're legally classified as vegetables in the United States, following an 1893 Supreme Court decision. 97. Are tomato leaves poisonous? Tomato leaves contain solanine and are technically toxic in large quantities, but the levels are generally too low to cause harm from casual handling or minor consumption. 98. Will planting marigolds alongside tomatoes prevent nematodes? Marigolds can suppress certain nematode populations when used as a cover crop before planting tomatoes, but their effectiveness is limited when simply interplanted. 99. Do eggshells really prevent blossom end rot? Crushed eggshells add calcium to soil very slowly over time, but they're unlikely to correct an immediate calcium deficiency, causing blossom end rot. 100. Are bigger tomato cages always better? While larger, sturdier cages provide better support for indeterminate varieties, they're unnecessary for determinate or dwarf varieties and can waste garden space.